But if you keep on moving to different interesting problems, then you will generate a personality who knows everything about the business and who can create solutions in different spaces. And I think with this and what I learned in pivoting in my career, I realized that that's what I have to do. So every couple of years, you keep switching. If you don't want to switch companies, switch teams. At least understand different areas of business.
Welcome to How I Made It in Marketing from Marketing Sherpa. We scour pitches from hundreds of creative leaders and uncover specific examples. Not just trending ideas or buzzword-laden schmaltz. Real-world examples to help you transform yourself as a marketer. Now, here's your host, the Senior Director of Content and Marketing at Marketing Sherpa, Daniel Burstein, to tell you about today's guest.
Want to move up in your organization? Here's the best advice I've gotten in my career. Train others to replace you. Hey, it's a bit scary. If others can replace you, it's also easy to fire you, right? However, if you're truly providing value, once others can do your current tasks, it also makes it possible for you to move up to the next level in your organization. Now, here's another version of that same wisdom. Automate your job. That's a lesson from my next guest. Joining me now to share the story behind that lesson, along with many more lesson-filled stories, is Pratik Shrivastava, Advanced Analytics Manager at Cummins. Thanks for joining me, Pratik.
Thank you, Daniel.
So let's take a look at Pratik's background real quick so you know who I'm talking to. He's been a senior statistical analyst at DMI, a senior data scientist at 8451, and for the past 4 years, he's been at Cummins. Cummins is a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. It reported $34.1 billion in revenue for 2024. Pratik leads a worldwide team of 5 data scientists, and his team estimated they generate $50 million in annual savings with their models. So Pratik, give us a sense. What is your day like as Advanced Analytics Manager?
So I usually start the day with looking at supply chain problems. So we have built several dashboards that track all the matrices. Sometimes our forecast is good. Sometimes it's not that great. I'm just looking for red flags over there. If there is some, then we get into a more deeper dive into the problems that we might be having. Then I usually talk to my peers in several business groups. There is a project that we are doing for transportation. There is a project where we are doing with the plant managers. We're trying to reduce the inventory for them. So all of these meetings happens throughout the day. And once we have an understanding of what we are going to do, I usually go deep dive into the models that we are going to build, and provide technical leadership as well as mentorship to all of my team members, helping them out building better models and creating better solutions.
Okay, so normally at this point, I'll just jump into the lessons and the stories, but I got a question on that number we started with. So as we were talking, normally I got like CMOs on, we're talking about a marketing budget, that sort of thing. But I thought it'd be really interesting to talk to you because you got an interesting role. And also in your podcast guest application, I mean, you had really good stories. You took it through and you didn't just see it as numbers. You saw it as like, okay, business wisdom. But all right, 5 data scientists you lead around the world, $50 million in annual savings with your models. That is a heck of an ROI. How are you doing that? How does that work?
Yeah. So just to give you an example, like the revenue is incremental, right? So when I started first year, we might generated like $5 million worth of savings. Next year, we generated another $5 million in savings. But what happens is that every year when you are say generating $5 million in savings, third year you already have like 10 million in savings that you are generating. So it's an incremental revenue, and then over a period of time, it just adds up. For example, last year, one of the projects that we were working on, we were trying to get the supplier recovery costs. So Cummins pays a lot of money for all of these suppliers, all of these claims, which whenever a claim happens, but some of that claim cost comes from the suppliers. So we needed to make sure that we are truly tracking that. We are getting to the correct supplier who supplied us the part that has failed. And to build a solution for that, initially, all of the processes were manual, so we needed to convert that into a better data sciencey model that increased the savings by $3-4 million. So that's another incremental thing that would happen. So that's how the 50 million number comes into picture.
That's fantastic. All right, well, let's take a look at another way that $50 million number comes into a picture, right? Because you didn't just, pop out of the womb knowing how to do this.
Yeah.
You built up this career to get to where you are today.
Yeah.
So let's look at how you did that. Some of the key lessons from there. So the first lesson you mentioned is embrace failure.
Yeah.
How did you learn this lesson?
Now, this is a very interesting example because I think one of the models that we created was to predict when a truck might fail. So, for example, trucks are driving on the road all the time. We have like telematics boxes that are sending us signals, and it's a wide use case that happens across the industry. So we are getting all those signals. For using those signals, we want to predict when a truck might fail. There could be several uses of that. We could um, get those parts in the inventory faster if they're and then when the truck fails, the downtime is much less than what it would be. um, the other use case is that it could get to the dealer faster. We can tell the truck that something is going on with your engine. You need to go to the dealer first. So all of those things, that's what we thought, that these could be like practical implications of the work that we are doing. We build a model to predict that. It was a good enough model. I wouldn't say it was the best model of all, but it was 70-80% correct. It was not nothing. It was better than a coin toss, much better than a coin toss, I would say. But when we built it, we spent considerable amount of time on it. But once we get to the business, they say that okay, the use cases that you are suggesting, those all require a lot of process change. It's not just a data science thing; it's a process related thing, and we don't have a control over it. And it would require business to put substantial effort on that, and the value that it will generate at the end of it is not that much. We in the hindsight, when I look at it, I can see that yes, there are some problems with it, and we shouldn't have spent that much time, the amount of time we spent building it. Um, However, what that taught me is that you need to understand the business value first. You should not just go dive into the problem, spend so much amount and so much money and time into problems which are not probably worth solving, or maybe the time hasn't come yet. So it's not exactly a failure, I would say, but it's a failure in terms of understanding business context.
So that's an example from you of understanding that context. Can you give us an example of like what a marketing leader should bring to you to build a successful model? Because that's a great example. You talk about not understanding the process. I remember interviewing a CMO at a major hotel in Las Vegas. I'm forgetting his name right now, but he talked about he wanted to add this like kind of loyalty program or do something at check-in, and he's like, "Hey, this will be a great thing." That was from a marketing perspective. But when he sat down with the actual customer service team or whoever it was, understanding that this would take 5 minutes extra at every check-in, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
guests they have every day or whatever, it was just the cost of it was just ridiculous. So, a marketing leader, we have these ideas of, math and data models and all these things. It's kind of this magic goo, and it'll just, give us all these answers and solve all these problems. But if we don't come to you with the correct ideas of what we're trying to solve or process, I imagine we're more likely to lead to failure. So do you have an example of, okay, here's a marketing leader came and they brought the right stuff so we can set it up for success?
Yeah, so that used to happen a lot in my previous role when I was in 8451. And 8451 is uh, just to give you brief background about what 8451 is. So 8451 is the longitude of Cincinnati, first of all. And this company, it's used to be called Dunnhumby USA. They were doing some work in Tesco in UK, and Kroger had similar problems in US. So Kroger called Dunnhumby UK to come into US and then do this kind of analytics for them. And that's very similar to what you were talking about, the loyalty marketing side. So we were doing a lot of marketing analytics for Kroger. So since the company was set up like that, we had a lot of business interaction, and the people who were in business were directly working with the data scientists to build tools like that. So for marketers, I think the most important thing is for us to build better products. To better market those products to the audience, marketers needs to have like really good business understanding, and they need to come up with business processes. They probably not tell us like what to do with the data, but helps us understand the processes a little bit better, I would say.
Well, I mean, also, is there the sense that data isn't the thing that will solve every problem, because so something that we talk about now, I mean, data driven, that word is just used constantly, but sometimes, the data that we find isn't really elucidating the problem we're trying to solve. So I mean, what do they need to do to give you that actually understanding? So I'll give you a real quick example. My background in, with mech labs and stuff, we're more A/B testing and that type of
Hmm.
experimentation. And when you talk about embrace failure, I love it, because that's what we're trying to do with experimentation. We're trying to fail sometimes,
Yeah.
because if we don't fail, then we're not really pushing the edge in testing. But there's different types of failing. There's failing because we have an accurate hypothesis and we thought this thing would happen, but it didn't, and we learned about the customer.
Yeah.
Versus there's failing because we don't actually have a hypothesis. We just did some stuff,
Uh-huh.
we got some results, and we don't really know what it means. So that's where I say, like, when they come to you, like what are some things that these data models would be good to predict, and what are some things where that data isn't the answer for everything? Or am I wrong and it is the answer for everything?
So in my experience, data has been answered for a lot of things. I have not come up with examples where data has not even. I mean, maybe because the questions that I am getting are people have already thought of some sort of hypothesis. For example, like one example I came to my mind is that at Kroger we were trying to do some. So my team used to send coupons. To all the customers. So we were looking for like who are the highly engaged shoppers at Kroger and buying all those products, and then we would target them with the best coupons available to us. So when we were doing that, we used to do a lot of A/B testing. We will have like people who are gonna get some coupons, but they'll not get anything, and then we'll test their behavior. How is it changing? How is it working out compared to people who are getting those coupons? And one of the things that people come up with is that it's a very silly example. Okay, so they said that instead of sending a coupon for a body wash like a particular brand, let's say Dove, instead don't send Dove coupon, but instead send a coupon just for any body wash. So it will give people more freedom to purchase whatever they want. It will still generate some value for Kroger because they're still going into the shop and buying whatever they want. And then later on, we realized that while it sounds a really great idea, it isn't really a great idea because, first of all, we are not getting any money from any of the companies because now you're just targeting anything across Kroger. So Kroger is paying for that. And at the same time, people really valued their brand loyalty. People really wanted those coupons. So even we saw engagement go down with those kind of questions. So it was a wild hypothesis, but sometimes it just came out to be incorrect, I would say.
That's a great example. Sometimes we think we're better serving the customer
Yeah.
and we're really not.
But yeah, I mean, I'm now trying to think like if there is any other example where marketer would have come with a different hypothesis with something that could not be solved with data. I don't have really solid examples on that though.
Okay, hey, that's fine. It makes it, you're the data guy, and if data works for things, that's great. Let's take another look at another lesson here. You mentioned pivoting is a superpower.
Yeah.
How did you learn this lesson?
So that is from my career, I would say. So back in 2011, 2012, I graduated from university and I was looking for a job. And the big hype thing at that point of time was business intelligence. I mean, it still is, but at that point of time, it was the data science. It was the artificial intelligence of 2011, I would say. So everybody wanted to go into business intelligence. I was like, oh, this is the shiny thing. Let's go behind it and let's try to get the career in that. And that's how I joined DMI. And we were building BI solutions for different companies. But later on, I realized that no, this is not really what I want to do throughout my career. And the career since then has been pivoted to a lot of different things, from data science to data, from business intelligence to data analytics. Then I took some courses. I tried to go into more into data science. From there, I actually made a switch to data science. But now it seems like the data science is again changing. All the things that we used to do in data science, like building better models, a lot of things are getting automated. Everything is more like a click of a button. So now the career is going into more machine learning and artificial intelligence side, and it's not like I am pivoting, it's just the industry is pivoting. But as long as you are aligned with what industry is going towards, and then you are constantly learning new things, and switching to the things that are happening in the industry, I think that would help your move your career substantially.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've heard about pivoting a lot here on How I Made It in Marketing. And I wonder if there's an example from you specifically from an analytics approach, like we were talking about data before. Like, are you data driven in your career? Do you have an
Mm.
example of using data to figure out that pivot? So I'll give you a quick example. I interviewed Carlos Gill, a US market brand evangelist at Get Response, on How I Made It in Marketing. And one of his lessons was about pivoting fast and recognizing opportunities is key. And he told the story. We heard a lot of pivoting stories during COVID. And he told the story of during COVID, launching COVID outlaw masks during the pandemic. But he's got a social media background. So he's looking at it through the lens of, okay, this is, I can leverage TikTok. It'll be viral. His pivot's focused on social media. I'd say for me, I'm a writer. So every decision I make, even in my career, I take through like a writing approach and trying to like write through it. So for you, Pratik, I worry, like, yes, you talk about the world is changing. Yeah, our audience is feeling that. I remember feeling that. I started my career writing print ads, right?
Yeah.
And then the world was changing and I
Yeah.
had to figure out how do I pivot with my writing digitally.
Yeah.
So in your career, you're working with big companies, you're working with big brands, you're giving them data to make decisions. How do you use data to pivot in your career to make career decisions?
So I guess the way I have been looking at it is mostly through a lens of uh, what is uh, what are people talking about, so not just social media, right? So I think like the first major switch that happened in the industry was like 2017. There was a so Google usually do this dev conferences, I think every year in March. No, it's like May, I think every year in May they have a big dev conference in San Francisco. And every year they come up with like new things, and I specifically remember 2017 conference, because in 2017 what happened was in one of their keynotes they had like the first version of ChatGPT that you would see, right? So they created an assistant, and that assistant was talking to the restaurant owners and setting up a reservation for that. So it was like really natural language, and that was the first time the whole world saw that computer can do all of this kind of work. And that made me realize that this is going to happen, this is coming in. And then that's when I started learning more into machine learning side, where all this natural language processes was happening. And so since then I've been like keenly following all the trends. So the way I would do it is that um, I'm always aware of what is happening in the outside world. So always connected with what are the major industry trends that are happening, and that allows me to learn as well as pivot whenever necessary.
Okay, great. Um, let's talk about another brand company corporate example. You said driving business value matters more than perfect models.
Yeah.
How'd you learn this lesson?
So as I said, right. So the first project I was doing at Cummins, we created a really good model, and then and it was a sexy model, I would say. I mean, it was predicting something that it was supposed to predict, and not all data science models are like that. Sometimes you put your effort, and then you figure out that no, it cannot be done. You know, some of those things are like that, like stock market prediction. People have been trying to do that forever, but it just doesn't work. So that kind of problems also occur in your business when you're researching something. You spend a lot of time, and then you realize that it cannot be done. However, the other project that I was saying, that we were trying to point all the claims that were happening in Cummins to the actual suppliers, so that we can get some money out of that. That particular project was not very sexy. It's not I wouldn't say that it is a data science project. More of it is moving data and just working with data, like a data analytics project, I would say. So while it is not sexy, it works, and it does create several $1 million in savings every year. So that helps you a lot, right? It drives more business value as compared to what traditionally a data scientist would do. But then the way I think of it is that my job role is fluid, and it needs to be, what it needs to do is to drive business value and not my personal value. My personal value is also important, though.
It is. Well, no, and that's a good lesson because, like I said, when I've worked with data scientists in the past, sometimes they create this great model, and it's like, okay, well, what is this really doing for us? Yes, there's a bunch of numbers, but how does this help us make a decision or make a better decision? So let me ask you, do you have an example of how you work to understand the customer experience to build models that ultimately impact the business? And for example, while you're thinking of that, in value proposition power, 3 ways to intensify the force of your value proposition, our CEO, Flint McLaughlin, teaches separate the means from the end, focus on the customer's experience with the value. And sometimes I think holistically as a business, this is where we're challenged, right? Because you said this has to work for me too. That's how businesses think. That's how individuals in a business think. We have to hit certain numbers this quarter. We have to, so we're focused on the business goals, right? Which is really a lagging indicator versus the actual customer experience, which is a leading indicator. So do you think of any examples where, like, yes, we're building business value, but we're doing it by putting the customer first and building a better customer experience?
Yeah, definitely. So that is a lot of what we did at 8451. So 8451, as you said, the motto was customer first. That's what we wanted to do, and then we realized that if we put customer first, the business value. We will derive business value out of that. So the coupons that we were sending. Uh, they needed to be very specific with what you're buying, so we were looking at all the transactions that you are making and developing insights from that, understanding who you are exactly without looking at your PIA data at all. We were just trying to look at that number, and from that number figuring out like who this person is, and based on that we were sending out the coupons to you. So the way you measure it, the way you measure if the product is success or not, is to check how your shopping behavior has changed since you got that coupon, or has it changed or not. So if it has changed, and if it has changed for positive, if you are going to Kroger more often, you're using those coupons, uh, using those coupons was like highly indicative factor of actual if it is actually serving you any value or not. Otherwise you wouldn't go and you wouldn't use those coupons if they were not relevant to you. And in the long run, are you generating more business revenue for Kroger or not? These are the proxies that would help us measure how satisfied the customer is. And the other point is like people will send out these emails to our CEO. They'll send out the Kroger CEO as well as 8451 CEOs, telling them how much they loved those coupons that we were sending out to them. So both of those things were happening.
Wow, that's some great
Yeah.
results. People are emailing the CEOs saying they're great coupons. That's some pretty good coupons.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are some lessons we just talked about from the things Pratik has made in his career. In just a moment, we're going to talk about some of the lessons from some of the people he made them with, some of the people he collaborated with. But first, I should mention that the How I Made It in Marketing podcast is underwritten by MechLabs AI, the parent company of Marketing Sherpa. You can get conversion-focused training from the lab that helped pioneer the conversion industry in our AI Guild, along with a community to collaborate with. You can grab your free 3-month scholarship to the AI Guild at join.mechlabsai.com. That's join.mechlabsai.com to join the AI Guild community. All right, so let's take a look at some of the lessons from people you collaborate with. The first person you mentioned was Shashank Saxena, the CEO of Pantomath. And from Shashank, you said you learned that helping others creates genuine connection.
Yeah.
So how'd you learn this?
So Shashank is a very interesting man. I have not met a lot of people like that, and he's very successful in his career. So when I was coming to University of Cincinnati for my masters, he actually started a program at University of Cincinnati mentoring new folks, like whoever are coming from anywhere. And fortunately, he got assigned as my mentor, and he just went out of the way to help me out, right? So I was taking that was my first flight, like first flight in my life, and that was from Delhi to Chicago. And I took that flight. I came to Cincinnati, and he was there. Like he directly came to meet me at my apartment on the first day itself. And I was like, okay, this person is like a VP at the Citibank. He was VP at the Citibank right now at that point of time. And then he just went out of the way to help me out with everything. So he took me shopping, and I came from India, so I had like no warm clothes as such. So he took me to shopping to buy all of those things. And throughout my career, he always mentored me, and he always helped me out. And it just made me wonder, like, what is the impact, like why is he doing that? And then when I asked him, because he was my mentor, I asked him, like, why do you do that? He said that while there is no benefit that you can see right now, the benefit is in long term. You don't play for short term things. The genuine connections that you develop through these kind of relationships, these organic relationships, that's what help you grow faster. So he was not just helping me, he was helping out his colleagues, he was helping out his seniors. He will just go out of the way for anything that he would believe in. And that helped him create, like, his company. He created a company called Wendley, and that got sold to Workday, and now he's a very rich dude now. And now, so he just created those values organically throughout his careers, and that helped him grow so much. And that's what I learned from him. So if somebody asks me for doing any work, I wouldn't usually say no. If it is in my possibility, if I can help out anybody, I would help out. So, and that's what I learned from him specifically.
Well, is there anything you proactively do to build genuine connections in Cummins? Because one thing I've learned, like a big company like Cummins, like in big companies, they're sometimes so hard to navigate and
Yeah,
so hard to really connect. And definitely people in data science or analytics roles, I mean, from what I've seen, they have a kind of more tendency to kind of be heads down and to focus on their models versus kind of pollinating throughout the company. So is there
yeah.
anything specific you do to force genuine connections in
Yes,
Cummins?
yes. So at Cummins, we do have a mentorship program. So you can register for that, and then they'll assign mentor. Even outside Cummins, I am part of Informs community. So Informs is an organization for OR professionals, like operations research professionals, and there also I do a lot of pro bono work as well as like mentorship programs there. So that's all I'm doing to do my part in this whole world. And that's something that I learned from him. Yeah,
And is there anything you do when you bring your team on to mentor them and help them? Because again, as you
yeah.
mentioned, it's a global team, it's a big company. How do you help get them to forge genuine connections?
I usually set up. So when anybody joins my team, I usually understand what they really want to do in their career, and then I try to connect it with people at Cummins who are masters of that area. For example, like my manager helped me do that. So my mentor is a director in a really completely different organization. So I would talk to him for getting any advice, and I would suggest for my peers to do the same. Like my direct report is to do the same.
Okay. So this next one is kind of controversial, okay? Because I've definitely talked to a lot of people in my career who specifically try not to do this. They try to undermine this because they're worried they're going to get replaced by a vendor or someone else. So you said you learned to automate your job, and you learned this from Nick Hamilton, the SVP of Kroger Precision Marketing. So
Yeah.
how'd you learn this from Nick?
Uh, Nick, uh, Nick is someone who grew up very quickly in his career. So Nick went from like an analyst to like a VP and like to like SVP now, in matter of years at Kroger. And it's a very hard thing to do at 8451 or anywhere, I think. So when he became my vice president, when I was at 8451, one of the key things that he said during one of the town halls was that he wants, and maybe that's only true for data scientists, maybe not, that's not true for every career, but at least it is true for data science, definitely. So when we are building, so he said that what I want you guys to do uh, is to automate whatever you're doing. So if you have created a model, uh, I don't want you to stay with that model throughout your career, that you just hold on to it and then you're just like making little small incremental changes. I want you to automate the whole thing so that you can move on to a next interesting problem. If you just spend all the time just keeping with that particular thing in mind, then you're not going to go anywhere. You won't learn new things, you won't learn new data, you won't learn what is the business. You just stay with one thing, and that would become much easy. I mean, for me, it would become much easy to lay you off in future, because we already know that what you do and whatever happens there. But if you keep on moving to different interesting problems, then you will generate a personality who knows everything about the business and who can create solutions in different spaces. And I think with this and what I learned in pivoting in my career, I realized that that's what I have to do. So every couple of years, you keep switching if you don't want to switch companies, switch teams. At least understand different areas of business, and don't stay with one problem itself. So when you get a problem, create a solution for it, and then move on to the next problem. The solution needs to be self-sustained, though. I mean, I'm not saying that you create a solution and then just forget about it. You create a solution, automate it. And that's what Nick also said. And if I look at Nick's career, that's what he do. That's what he did, and then he moved. He became like a really big person at 8451.
Okay, Pratik, you talk about automating your job, and so we just, the water we're swimming in is AI, and I can't ignore that. So I want to ask, let me ask about what we should be automating and what we should never automate and own as humans. And I'll tell you why I ask, especially. So Cummins, you are in the industrial sector and manufacturing, and automation came probably first in your industry, right? We talked about automating the factory floor. I remember, I was in high school, college in the 90s. We saw these people losing their jobs because of automation outsourcing. I'm like, I want to choose a career where that's not gonna happen to me. And now the crazy thing is automation is coming for the writers. I thought, I'm a writer. I'm immune. Automation is coming for the writers, the marketers, the creatives. So I think you're a little more on the leading edge than some of us for two reasons. Like I said, you do work at Cummins. You do work in this industrial atmosphere where automation has paid off in a lot of ways very early. And as you mentioned, in 2017, as a data scientist, you're looking at these things. You're looking at, we probably didn't see the Chat GPT style till many years later. So as we balance our careers, as we balance our teams, as we balance our marketing departments, what should we be using AI for? And what should we make sure, and how can we learn as humans to keep something for ourselves that's going to still be providing value?
So I think, like, first of all, the understanding of AI is a little bit important here. So what we need to realize about AI is that AI is only learning from our collective human experiences, and I know now the collective human experiences are a lot. Like we have we have from Shakespeare to like now, everything is in there, everything is uploaded, and that's what the AI has learned from, and that's why it's so good, and it is going to get better. But I think what we also need to realize is that it still requires a human to understand the output of that AI and convert that into a business outcome. Yes, for writers, I think it is a very tricky situation right now, because we are in a very early phase of it. We still don't know what exactly AI could do and what exactly where it would lend us to. But for everyone, my suggestion is that don't be scared of AI. Use it as a productive tool. As you said that it takes you 80% over there already. Like when you start using an AI, like for, let's say, for a marketer, when you're building a plan, it will take you there. But I think, like, at the end, like, the human understanding of it is not going to go away. And the connections that you will have with people, that would always be required. So once you take those two things in consideration, I think that's when AI can be used as a tool, versus as something that would just truly replace everyone.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Here's another career lesson. You said you learned be your own brand. You learned this from Thiag Loganathan, the CEO of Cardinality.ai. How did you learn this from Thiag?
So I think this one is more controversial. What
More controversial than automate your job? Okay, bring it. Let's see.
Yeah, no. So this is when we were working on one of the projects, and then we were in San Diego presenting to one of our clients, and I was a junior analyst back then. So for junior analyst to go into a major sale where we are trying to sell our product to them, we developed a POC for them, and then we're just going to show what we have created, and then ask for more bigger projects. And I did not know what to wear in that presentation. And then Tiag looked at me, and then Tiag said that, Pratik, you realize that you are not representing me, you are not representing the company, you are representing yourself. The way you want the world to look at you, not just think about like uh, how it would be looked upon on the company, but think about how it would look upon on you. And if you want to wear shorts, go ahead with it. If you just want to come in t-shirt and short, but then give a presentation that matches that. So it's up to you. Like, you are building your own brand, and when you're building your own brand, um, the way it changed me is that it made me realize how people would look at you with what you do, and how you behave yourself in public. And I did not had that kind of self consciousness before he gave me this knowledge. So since then I'm like very caution like I take caution with before saying something, before understanding like how the world would react to what I'm saying or what I'm not saying. So yeah, so that was an interesting lesson from him.
I mean, in terms of building your own brand too, like, do you create content and put it out there? Because I've got to mention, like, my hat's off to you. You applied to be on the How I Made It in Marketing podcast. Like we've talked about, we normally have CMOs on who are used to the speaking. Not many analytics managers, data scientists, analytics leaders would feel comfortable doing an interview like this. There's these other things too. Like I'm a content guy, so it's natural to me to do things like LinkedIn and, speak at conferences and presentations and teach and stuff. But there's so many other roles where that's important for branding, but people don't feel comfortable putting themselves out there. So is there something you've learned? I don't know if you do LinkedIn or speak at conferences or other things you do, but obviously you're on a podcast. Is there something you learn and you can teach to other more analytical, data, tech-oriented peers about building a personal brand?
Yeah, definitely. So again, what I have realized is that your brand matters. Like if I'm looking for a job outside somewhere, like if I'm looking for any job, people need to know what I have done. Like I can tell them what I have done, but if I show them what I have done, that's a completely separate thing. Going on podcast, building your own personal brand, that all helps you in like building your career to a bigger level, right? And of course, I like talking to people, and of course, I like meeting new people, and that's why I do it personally. But definitely, I would advise everybody to have your career in your own hands and do these kind of activities.
All right, thanks. If you had to break it down, what are the key qualities of an effective marketer? And I know I've asked a lot of marketers that question. I appreciate your perspective now because you're kind of, coming from a bit of an outside realm and you're looking at us externally. And what are the key qualities of an effective marketer?
I think for a marketer, the data, I mean, so I think we talked about it earlier, where we talked about data, like what data cannot tell to a marketer. But what I've realized is data with storytelling is the really important thing that the marketer should strive for. uh, Data alone doesn't tell you anything, but if it is combined with a storytelling approach where you can segment through like why you're doing something and how it is backed up by data, that's when you become a very successful marketer. That's when you're able to sell your product both to the customer as well as to the leadership. And I think that's a important lesson as a data scientist talking to a marketer.
No, it's true. Data plus story. Data on its own is just numbers. Yeah. But all right, thank you so much for your time, Pratik. Yeah. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks to everyone for listening.
Thank you for joining us for How I Made It in Marketing with Daniel Burstein. Now that you've gotten inspiration for transforming yourself as a marketer, get some ideas for your next marketing campaign from Marketing Sherpa's extensive library of free case studies at marketingsherpa.com. That's marketing, SHERPA.com.